Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, a little bit late tonight, about 9:20. Iowa State just defeated Baylor on the road, 70-60. Nice 10-point win on the road. Just gutty performance. Didn't play well in the first half. Jefferson hit a three essentially at the buzzer to put them ahead 25-24. And then they started out the second half really well. Got, 10 to 12-point lead. I think it got down to 5, maybe once, but overall, Iowa State controlled the second half. And that's what you would expect to see out of a number 3 ranked team. But first road game in the Big 12 at Baylor, never good. I think on the TV, they said Iowa State had lost 11 of 12 at Baylor. So hard place to play for Iowa State. But you go do what you're supposed to do, come out of there with a win, come home for the weekend, and we'll go from there. So want to bring in Trevor. He's still having a little bit of not internet problems, but computer issues and stuff. So no video tonight for him, but he is joining us, and you'll be able to hear him just fine.
Yeah, finally back. It's good to be back. Saw you a few times over break at Christmas, which was good. 2.5 weeks of vacation was a lot, probably a little too much. So it's good to be back home and back into a normal work schedule. I got to admit, it was probably 4 or 5 days too long. And then speaking of Iowa State men's basketball, I didn't get to watch the game. I was doing some other stuff, but I was kind of keeping track of the score on my phone occasionally. So yeah, playing at Baylor is never an easy task. You said first road game for Iowa State men?
First road Big 12 game.
Big 12 game. Yep.
Yeah, because they beat Purdue by 24 points or whatever it was on the road, again, when Purdue was number 1 in the country. And then obviously they played out in Vegas in some neutral site. They played in Sioux Falls. They played some neutral site games, but only their second true road game, and then first in the conference, which it's only their second conference game. So, I mean, it's not like they've been playing at home for a long time, but just, next Tuesday, I think they play at Kansas. Should be able to take care of Oklahoma State at home on Saturday. Obviously, you never say never, but that's a game you should win. And then, obviously, next Tuesday night at Kansas. Now, that is one of the most difficult places to play in the country. And Iowa State, over the course of their history, has not done well at Fog Island, but nobody has. So, but again, if you're the number 3 team in the country and you're vying for a Big 12 championship and vying for a Final Four opportunity and you want that number 1 seed, Kansas is very good, but they aren't elite like they have been. And it's a game that you're not going to say should win, because I don't know if you ever should win at Kansas, but it's a game that you should expect to be in the game with less than 4 minutes to go. And have your chances to win, and then hopefully you make the plays down the stretch.
Yeah, playing at Kansas is going to be very tough. I know Cody told me they've got an amazing freshman on the team.
Yes, and that's a weird deal, but
yeah,
in itself. But
that'll be a player to look out for. But I mean, yeah, anytime in men's, women's, any college sport, really, if you can go on the road and get a W, that's always a big thing. Games at home are typically easier, even in professional sports, but it's even tougher in college because these are younger athletes, don't have as much experience traveling. They've got classes to pay attention to and all that other stuff. So anytime you can get a win on the road, conference win, you'll always take that, even if it's ugly.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if you saw this, but last week, I don't remember after which game it was, but Coach Otzelberger kind of went on a rampage, just a rant about how his team had the highest GPA it's ever had. Joshua Jefferson had his highest GPA. They're good in the community. And I think it was, especially tonight playing Baylor, they have that kid that got drafted by the NBA and he's back playing in college. Just there's some players that played in the NBA this like a month ago that are looking to come back to college. And I don't know all the rules and everything with that, but it's just there still is college still is a setting that kids are there to learn. 18 to 20. I'm just going to say 18 to 24-year-olds now. But we're getting farther and farther away from what the focus of it is. But when money is involved, this is what happens. And the courts are now involved. So the rules are just non-existent because somebody will sue them and everybody gets an injunction and they can play until it gets solved, and it can't be solved. So what's happening is the NCAA is just stepping back. Now, this is football, this is basketball, it's everything. NCAA is just stepping back, and they truly are waiting for the government to step in, which we all know how fast and efficient the government is. So it's going to get taken care of real soon.
Yeah, real soon. Maybe in a couple years after it gets even worse. So
right.
Yeah, it's a mess, as all of us know at this point in time. I think most people are going to be rooting against Baylor all year with that kid being on the team, having played in the NBA and all that type of stuff. That's just common sense. Like, that shouldn't happen. Players getting paid in college is a different story, but a guy going pro and then coming back, nobody wants that. But right now, I guess you can do it. So
and Iowa State's not innocent in this. They've got a kid on their team that's 21 years old that's a freshman that played professional ball in Europe. Now, he's from Germany, and he was never drafted by the NBA. So those are a little bit different. But overall, he got paid to play basketball. Of course, so is everybody else on the team. So, I mean, it's no different than anything else now. But, yeah, so it's just a touchy subject. And anytime you have John Calipari saying that it's over the line and too far in the cheating realm, you might have went a little too far, because he's the first one to push the envelope as far and probably cross the line a little bit every time. If he thinks it's too far, it's probably too far.
Yeah, if he's complaining about it, then we've gone we've definitely gone too far.
Probably jumped the shark on it.
Yeah, that's right. NIL is a whole nother story, but yeah, if he's complaining about it, you're correct. We have gone too far in this whole situation.
Yeah, and then on the other end of the spectrum tonight, Iowa State men did exactly what they needed to do. 10-point win on the road. Iowa State women, number 11 in the country, lose their first game Sunday against Baylor, who's a very good team. Again, they're not an elite team yet this year. They're not going to win a national championship, but they're ranked like 22nd or something like that. And they're always good. Give Iowa State their first loss on Sunday. But tonight, Iowa State goes to Cincinnati, who I believe I watched the game a little bit. They were 5-10 on the year and 0-3 in the conference. And they kind of put it to Iowa State. Led throughout the game. Addie Brown did not play. She's got hurt back, and she didn't play very well against Baylor. Baylor might have given the script on how to beat Iowa State. They made it very, very difficult on Audie Crooks, and she had 20 points or 23 points, but it just wasn't as efficient or as easy as it has been for most of the season. And then just the other players are not stepping up and hitting the shots they need to hit in order to free up Audie Crooks. And then without Addie Brown able to be the slasher and kind of do everything, they're limited a little bit. And then Adriana Jackson, AJ, kind of the heart and soul. And her dad played when I was on the football team there or played football there when I helped with the football team there. Her brother played football there. So Cyclone through and through from Des Moines, Iowa, got hurt. Didn't look good. I kind of watched the replay. I thought right away it was a torn ACL, just the way she kind of went down and grabbed her knee. But it truly was, and I'm not saying it's not, but definitely was like knee-to-knee contact. So it wasn't like a non-contact injury. So it wasn't truly obvious that she didn't get hit or anything. She did get run into, and it was like knee-to-knee. So hopefully it's not that, and just day-to-day or maybe out a week or two, just a sprained knee, and then can come back. But obviously we'll find out more later with that. But just too bad for the women there. And then Laura and I are actually going to the game on Sunday. So hopefully they turn around and play a little bit better, and everybody is back and playing. And Audie Crooks put a knee brace on tonight. So I don't know. Everybody's hurt and sick and bothered. And the Iowa men were sick last night and got beat up in Minnesota. The Iowa women are sick, and they won the game at Northwestern. But I think it is that time of year. Everybody went home. You kind of get this in the middle of December. Everybody gets together for Thanksgiving, and then a couple of weeks later, everybody's sick. Well, everybody got together over Christmas, And these basketball players, actually, most of them got to go home a little bit for Christmas. They don't go home for Thanksgiving because unless they're close, obviously like, Jackson from Des Moines, she can kind of go home, whatever. But most of these players over Thanksgiving, they played that week and then probably had to come back because they played that weekend as well. It's not really a vacation break, but over Christmas and after finals, most teams have somewhere around a week off. And so they could fly home for a few days or get home for a few days and see, which is what you want to do. But when you get people together, sickness happens and stuff like that. And I do just want to thank you and Cody and Zach and Tuna. We had a great time the other night over here at the house watching football and just getting together and being around. It's always a good time.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun to be there with everybody. We had a great night watching all the sports and everything. And you're right, there's a lot of sickness going around. The Iowa game last night, the men's, of course, they had 3 shots there at the end to get it tied up, and they couldn't get any of them to fall. But it was, they got 3 pretty good looks considering the situation. And then, as you mentioned, Iowa women, tough game at Northwestern. Northwestern doesn't really have a great record. But, again, it's like we said earlier, it's a win on the road in conference, so you'll take it. And, yeah, there does seem to be a lot of sickness going around, especially with the college athletes. As you mentioned, they get to go home at least for Christmas time a little bit, getting a bunch of people together. So hopefully here over the next week, we'll kind of start getting out of this sickness stage of sports at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we're going to see a lot of stuff coming up this week. And I'm going to name this podcast the greatest 5 days of football coming up, because we've got tomorrow night college, Friday night college, and then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the NFL playoffs. So obviously in college, we're in the Final Four and then wild card round of football. And we've never had this before where it's just one right after the other. And, I'm not going to say it's the five greatest days in sports because, that Thanksgiving time has, Thursday, Friday, and then, Saturday, Sunday, Monday as well. And they've got, and you got basketball and you got those big tournaments over Thanksgiving. But this for just straight football, I don't know if it gets any better than this.
No, I don't think it does. I'm really looking forward to the 5-day stretch. And I mean, we may as well get into the first game.
Yep.
Right. Tomorrow night, I think it's 6:30 Iowa time.
Yep.
Is it Miami? Sorry, I had it written down. Tomorrow night's Miami Ole Miss, isn't it?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that one. Miami's really hit their stride. Ole Miss seems like a great. They're a really good team, but if they win this, they're gonna have to make a Disney movie out of them. If they pull out the upset against Miami and get to the national championship, especially after their coach leaves to go to what's perceived to be a better program, which historically it is, of course. Right. But you almost wonder if Lane's having a regret. I am going to take Miami in this game. I just think they have a lot more NFL bodies that are really hitting their stride. They got potentially 3 first-round picks, 2 on the D-line, 1 on the O-line. They've got a future first-round pick in Tony at receiver, not this year, but in future drafts. Carson Beck will get drafted at some point. He won't be a first-rounder this year. So I'm going to roll with Miami. You almost wonder if Miami's a team of destiny, considering that's where the national championship is played this year.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to pick Miami as well. So I'm with you, but I'm 100% with you. If Ole Miss wins this game, it's unbelievable. And now you've got 2 coaches that are not coaching this week that has coached all the way up till it. Lane Kiffin pulled them or whatever's happening there. But Charlie Weiss Jr. is still going to call the plays and still be the offensive coordinator. And he's still going back and forth. But I think the receivers coach and maybe the running back coach are both staying at LSU now. So they do have some different coaches. We've seen this before. Lane Kiffin himself kind of got told you're done going into the championship game when he was at Alabama, and they brought in Sarkisian, who obviously knew what was going on, and proven himself. You could make an argument he's probably been a better head coach than Lane Kiffin, but it's just a whole debacle. And again, like you said, it's a documentary, movie, whatever you want to do it. And just as much on the Ole Miss side and how good of a job that those players and those coaches are doing that are there. They've already hired a new offensive coordinator, and he's sitting in the meeting and everything and probably helping a little bit, but he's not there. And I heard Pete Golden talk today. He's not paying Charlie Weiss Jr. LSU is paying him, and it's a weird deal. And, the longer this goes, the more it gets talked about, but this calendar has to change. And I think there is some true sentiment, and I think there are a lot of people understanding how silly this is. Could you imagine if, Sean Payton decided, hey, I want to go coach the Ravens. They just fired their coach, which we're going to have a discussion about that here in a little bit, I'm sure. But I want to coach the Ravens. I'm gone. That's insane. But that's what happens in college football.
Yeah, it's definitely insane. And hats off to Golden, and hats off to just all the players and coaches that are still there at Ole Miss making it work. It's a crappy situation, to say the least. And the time that they're putting in, and, the players and some of the coaches could have easily given up and said, well, this season's over. We'll probably beat Tulane, and then that'll be the end of the road. So really hats off to all of them. And I've heard from enough college football experts I listen to that Golden is kind of this boy genius, up-and-coming guy that they're really high on. They've heard a lot of stories that Nick Saban loved him and all these things. So, maybe Ole Miss got an upgrade at the end of the day.
And that's what, people think, well, they gave him the job just to keep the roster together. Well, they did, but people do forget he was defensive coordinator at Alabama. You don't get that job if you are not good at your job. Alabama when Nick Saban was there, could literally have anybody in the country come be their defensive coordinator. So if you got that job, you were really good, and he really liked you, and he really wanted you to do that. So he knows what he's doing. And maybe he had more to do with them throughout the year, and maybe the AD saw that. But a couple things. One, and they're keeping these guys. There's money in Ole Miss. They're paying their players. Don't kid yourself. And several of them are trying to come back. Lacey's coming back. Chambliss wants to come back. He's got to get granted another year. But you just don't. Here's the other thing I'm going to say is these kids now, I'm just going to say they're kids still. They are getting paid, and they do have a responsibility. And Ole Miss is showing that it can still be done. Your job is to go win football games. Doesn't matter who your coach is. Doesn't matter all the outside noise. Go win football games. That's your job, and Ole Miss is doing that perfect right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's a testament to all the players and coaches that are still there trying to make it work through a really difficult situation. So I'll be happy no matter what team wins, I'll be happy, because if obviously Miami wins, that's just going to irritate Notre Dame fans even more. That's the committee chose Miami. That's going to make them look good. But of course, if Ole Miss pulls the upset, it's going to be a Disney type of season with everything that's going on.
Oh, absolutely. And then obviously, if Miami wins, they're playing at home, which does not happen very often. I'm not going to say it's never happened. Miami's played to win a national championship in the Orange Bowl, so it's happened before, but not in the playoff setting. And, there's an opportunity where the 49ers have that chance as well, playing at home for the Super Bowl. And if they would have won that game 2 weeks ago, well, really just like 10 days ago against Seattle, heck, it hasn't even been that. It's been, 4 days? It was Saturday night, wasn't it?
It's early to get your days in track still.
It's bad. It's horrible.
Next week, Monday.
Yeah, everything starts Monday. It's whatever day it was. It's 4 days ago, 5 days ago, whatever it was. They had the opportunity for the number one seed and could have never left home throughout the playoffs, and now they got to go to Philadelphia, and then win another road playoff game. But if they get the Super Bowl, it will be at Levi Stadium there in Santa Clara.
Yeah, for sure. That's another possibility. And then, of course, the Friday night game will be Indiana, Oregon. And I'm going to talk about Indiana like I talk about an NFL team we'll talk about coming up. But, for a while last year and then some of this year, I was just focused on the logo on the side of the helmet with Indiana.
Yep.
Because they've never really been that good most of their entire history. And you have to look at what they've done. I mean, they went to Oregon and won, went to Iowa and, pulled out a good victory. They beat Ohio State. They hammered Alabama. I think they might too. I could see a double-digit win here for Indiana on a neutral site.
Yeah, and you got to worry a little bit about Oregon and their travel. They went down to Miami, back to Oregon, back to Atlanta. And not that Indiana's not traveling, but Oregon's just way out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't play in the Rose Bowl. Indiana went to the Rose Bowl, but that's, for Indiana fans and for Indiana themselves, that's a Big Ten goal. And honestly, it's the goal for a lot of teams, but Indiana hadn't been to the Rose Bowl since 1958 or whatever it was. But actually up until it was either midway through this year or midway through last year, Indiana, we talk about Iowa State being one of the worst football programs in the history. Indiana literally was the losingest football program in history until last year or this year. I can't remember what date it was. It was either the middle of this year or last year when they finally weren't the losingest program of all time. And what Kirk Cignetti is doing, and I think you're going to probably touch on this, and what Mendoza is doing, and what they're doing again in the portal coming up for next year, they're not going to stop. And I just saw it, and again, saw it in the internet. So AI, whatever, fake news, it definitely could be. But Mark Cuban just re-upped for a bunch, for next year's money, So when you have,
I believe that is true.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it is, but anymore, I'm just always disclaimer
right.
on that heck, who knows? But Mark Cuban re-upped. Doesn't matter the number, but when you have that backing, it's always good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what Cignetti's done is truly amazing. I mean, they don't have a lot of big star recruits. They have a lot of veteran players. Last year I thought it was just a bunch of really good JMU guys coming. A nice year for them. I wasn't sure they could repeat it this year. Obviously, they have, and then some. So I wasn't quite a believer. Now I am. Oregon's a really good team. They got a lot of good players. But I don't know. It almost feels like Indiana and Miami is the teams of destiny this year, I guess, as I would call them.
Yeah, and of the three teams left, Miami's the only one that has won a national championship. And they've got several, but their last one in 2001 or 2.
Yep.
So it'd been, essentially 25 years ago. That's when I was in college. I mean, I remember, they lost that game to Ohio State that broke like a 34-game winning streak when their whole team was in the NFL in 2 years. I mean, it was unbelievable what they had there. But, yeah, Indiana they're proving that you can do it. And I know, let's just kind of go this into the transfer portal era. And tonight, the Baylor, Dave Aranda was there with DJ Lagway, and all the quarterbacks are going. All 4 quarterbacks that are playing left have all been transfers. And they've all been transferred from Power 4 to, except for the Ole Miss guy. He's a D2 guy, but he won 2 national championships, kind of like Gronkowski, Gronkowski for Iowa with 2 championships at FCS. He had 2 championships at Division II. But Moore started at UCLA, obviously Beck at Georgia, and then Mendoza at Cal. So when you say you can't build if you just get a new quarterback every year, well, yes, you can. Or you can't win. I shouldn't say build, but you can win when you get a new quarterback each year. You just have to be willing to pay. Brendan Sorsby just left Cincinnati to go to Texas Tech. The reported number is $5 million. That's more money than Shedeur Sanders got in his first contract in the NFL. Not this year, contract, which would have been very similar to what Brock Purdy got. I mean, the joke was Purdy for his first 5 years was getting $100 million a year. These guys are getting paid more than rookie quarterbacks, unless they're first rounders. And that's where this has come, and Murph and Andy and excuse me, Cyclone Fanatic guys and different people I listen to, they're having a hard time where, all Iowa State players are transferring and the fans are just turning on them and being kind of mean to them, which I don't think is right, and you shouldn't do it. I will never do that. I can feel however I feel, and I've put that on podcasts and how I feel and everything, but I'm not going to do it individually. But I think it is different now than it was 10 years ago. These guys are getting paid. These guys are professionals. I think you have a right now to criticize these players more than you did 10 years ago, because we are paying these players. It's yes, they're younger, but like Diego Pavia is older than half the quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's getting paid just like all of them. Why can't he get criticized? And he is. I'm not saying he's not, but you shouldn't be like, well, he's in college. This is amateur athletics. It's not. So if he gets, a DM in his social media, or, somebody comes on a call-in radio show and says, he's not doing his job, we're paying him $2 million to play and he's choking, I think it's deserved now. 10 years ago, I'd have said no. These guys are they are student athletes, but they're not anymore. These are professional athletes. In men's basketball and football, these are professional sports now.
Yeah, for sure. They're allowed to be more criticized. You look at the Final Four quarterbacks, these last 2 years in the college playoff, they all had a ton of starts. The experience comes up. So, yeah, you can get a quarterback. I mean, speaking of Diego Pavia, let's get into the Iowa bowl game briefly. Yep. That was one of my favorite Iowa wins in a while, and it was nice to shut Diego Pavia up, sacked him 4 times, I think it was, and kind of put a little hurting on him. They came back. He did have some nice passes there, especially in the second half, which, he was a Heisman runner-up. But
he's a good player. Heck, yeah, but Iowa did put it to him in the first half for sure.
Yeah, and, Diego's comments about you only need to score 7 to beat Iowa, and that kind of overshadowed some things, but also hats off to Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. They only had one opt-out. Iowa didn't have any. Good on both teams to go play a bowl game.
Absolutely, and that's what you want to see, and that's another thing that we're paying these players, and it needs to be in their contracts. These guys are all signing contracts. Heck, you're seeing now where I'm re-signing with my school that I'm already at because it's a new negotiation. You have a different contract this year. That needs to be part of the deal. Every game that your team plays, you need to play unless you're hurt. I mean, obviously injuries happen. It's okay, but that needs to be in the contract. And then the other thing, these contracts, this is going to take a little bit longer, but just like coaches' contracts, and we're going to get into, Penn State should be paying Iowa State to sign Rocco Becht. Just you have if you leave and the school that takes you, just like, Penn State had to pay or Iowa State or whoever had to pay it. I mean, it was only like $400,000, which that's a whole different argument. But if it's $50,000, whatever it is, you got to pay it back. Whether the school pays it or the player, that doesn't matter to me. That's up to them. Just like, Iowa State had to pay Washington State to get Jimmy Rogers. And we should have to pay all the Washington State players to come to us and all others. If that's happening, it just needs to be in the contract. And that might limit it a little bit, or give you an incentive to stay more. It shouldn't limit it, but it should just give you an incentive to stay. I'd like to see those in contracts as well.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it. If another team takes you, they have to do your buyout, call it, and the contract you sign can be 1 year. That's fine, but your contract is only for 12 games, and then extra games after that. Like if you're a quarterback, if you make the playoff, you get incentivized X amount of dollars per win if you play. Things of that nature, but that's going to take some time. But yeah, it can't be, the Washington quarterback signed a new deal and then 3 days later enter the transfer portal. You can't really have that. So they've got to get something in writing where, you're locked in for a year. If you leave, you forfeit the money, or if another team takes you, they do the buyout to the school. So that school gets their money back, as you mentioned. And there definitely has to be some guidelines put into place where you can't sign a contract and then 3 days later say, well, I'm going to go in the portal. The NFL, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you never see,
or at least not with repercussions,
right,
without repercussions.
Demand a trade or something, but you're going to lose a lot of money or something's going to happen. So, yeah, it's the Wild West. It's got to get cleaned up a little bit, or more than a little bit.
Yeah, but here's what we all are still going to do. If you're a college football fan, what are you going to do tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
You're going to watch. And what are you going to do on Friday night? You're going to watch. And what are you going to do next, the Monday, the 19th, whatever day? I think it's the 19th, the championship. What are you going to do? We're going to watch. And next September, or late August, what are we going to do? We're going to watch. And, I can complain and moan about all this, but guess what I'm going to do? That first home game for Iowa State. I'm going to be in the stands. I'm going to be cheering for the Cyclones. Now, I do think that it's getting more and more, and basketball has been this way for a few years, but now it's becoming football. You don't get attached to the coaches and players anymore. I think Iowa State has learned this now. We've been isolated from this, and Iowa has been isolated from this with only, 2 coaches in 50 years. Kirk Ferentz is your guy. Matt Campbell was our guy. When this stuff happens, Rocco was our quarterback. Well, not anymore. He's out. We are Cyclone fans. And then whenever Kirk Ferentz retires or moves on, whatever he decides to do, which I'm sure he's just going to retire, and it could happen at any time. This is going to, if they hire within, it probably won't be as bad. But if they go outside and go hire someone without direct Iowa ties or no Iowa ties, the same thing's going to happen to the Hawkeyes. And you're going to be like, these guys were our guys, when Jackson, Cooper, he doesn't, he's playing for the Hawkeyes in 2 years, and then new coach comes in and he gets a transfer portal, Cooper DeJean's brother, Jackson DeJean. That's kind of hard to say, but, and he transfers and goes to Nebraska or whatever. He's no longer a Hawkeye, even though he's a brother of a Hawkeye great, and he played for the Hawks, but he's no longer a Hawkeye, and that's just how it's going to be. And you're not going to get, I think, in the bookstore, we've Iowa State signed 30 guys, and they're going to try to put names on the back of a lot of these guys. Iowa State fans aren't going to buy them. We all saw the Bramer jersey and the Rocco jerseys opened up this Christmas. That's done at Iowa State. I truly believe the fans are going to rebel against that, and they just aren't going to buy player jerseys anymore. They'll buy number 18. They'll buy it'll go back to pre-NIL where you bought, Seneca Wallace's jersey 15 or Brock Purdy's jersey 15, but it didn't say Purdy on the back because he couldn't get any money. It's going to go back to that at Iowa State. I truly believe that. They, whatever number Jalen Reno or whatever, however you say his name for sure, whatever number he is, you're not going to put his last name on the back, and Iowa State fans aren't going to buy it. You can get his number, but you're not going to put the name on the back. That's just the reality of Iowa State football now.
Yeah, that's probably true for Iowa State fans. You can go buy an old Brock Purdy jersey or something like that. Nick Wallace, as you mentioned, fans will buy that just so they have a jersey to wear, but they're not going to buy the new ones with the one and done type players that we are in now. And yeah, going with Kirk, 27 years. I think that win over Vandy, I think that buys him. I think he's going to try to get to year 30, which, given the improvement of the offense under Tim Lester, I'm okay with it right now. We'll see the next quarterback how they do, of course. Time will tell. But that was a big win for Kirk, and that's one thing that can't be understated, and even I'm guilty of it. I watched a tribute video on Kirk the other night where a lot of college coaches, players, and NFL players were talking about the good thing about Iowa is nothing really changes there. So the messaging doesn't change, the schedule, the practices, weightlifting, nutrition, everybody kind of knows what they're supposed to do because it's been so long. And you look at all these other college programs that change coaches every 3 or 4 years, and all that stuff changes, in a short time frame, where at Iowa it doesn't. So, yeah, hopefully Iowa, ideally could hire from within. Maybe LeVar Woods comes back or whoever. He's obviously going to Michigan State, which, I think that might be a good learning experience for him. But whoever takes next over for Iowa, whenever Kirk does retire, it's going to be a little bit of a nervous transition, because if it doesn't go well for 3 or 4 years, then a new coach could be coming in, and then 10 years down the line, you could be kind of in this mess that other programs are in.
Yeah, just you're and Iowa State, we're worried about that right now. Now, let's go into true Iowa State transfers, and I will say this: Jimmy Rogers has done a really good job. Here is everybody saying we're better than we thought we would be, and I agree with that. I think we've done all right. We brought a lot of players from Washington State, which is, I mean, it's the same thing that Campbell's doing at Penn State. However, for the most part, all these players are coming up a level. That doesn't mean they can't be good. Indiana did that with James Madison. So I'm not saying it cannot happen, but that's just gives me a little bit of trepidation. Yeah, we got the D2 All-American, best player in football. We got a kid from Montana that was an All-American at FCS. We got some South Dakota State guys. We got a guy from Toledo that visited Indiana as well. We got a guy from Oklahoma that didn't play a lot. We got a guy from Auburn that didn't play a lot. Most of the guys are not coming from Power 5 programs. That's what worries me. You know, Iowa State players are all going to Penn State. I would say that's a step up in competition. Abu Sama went to Wisconsin. That he didn't go down a level. He's going to the Big Ten. Jontez Williams went to USC. You know, these players aren't going down a level. There's one lineman that went to Georgia State, but he'd always been hurt at Iowa State. One of those, he's going to go down, try to prove himself, and then come back up. That's just what you can just see it. How it's he needs to go because he hasn't played at Iowa State. But that doesn't mean these guys aren't good football players. It's just number one, they're cheaper. That's the number one thing. We're not in. Brendan Sorsby he's not coming to Iowa State, and I don't think he should, because Iowa State shouldn't spend $5 million on a quarterback. They're not in that. That's not how they should spend their money wisely. They need to get a quarterback that's $1 million, more than he was getting at Arkansas State. So he feels good. You know, receiver, you know, we don't need the number one. We don't need that receiver out of Auburn to come to Iowa State that's going to demand $2.5 million. We can get 3 receivers for $2.5 million. That's what we need to do. We got to play money ball. And we've talked about that. Iowa State. Now, the other thing that has happened, and it wasn't great seeing 50 players leave. However, what did happen, and I heard this today on Williams and Bloom, Cyclone Fanatic guys, that Iowa State is spending $13 to $14 million on their football. Well, the last staff, Campbell's staff, had saved from last year that didn't spend their entire allotment for $2 million for retention bonuses. It was going to take a little bit more money to keep Rocco, to keep Bramer, to keep Hansen, to keep Burkle. You know, they knew those guys they were going to give them all, you know, $500,000 for staying, you know. Well, those guys all left, so all that money's freed up. So literally they have the entire NIL allotment to pay. So they're able to pay a little bit more than they thought they were going to. I really think, and that's why they're getting maybe a little bit better players than they were originally thought, because truly they weren't paying anybody that was coming back. I mean, I think the only guys that came back that had even really seen the field were a few D linemen, which, again, it is cheaper to retain D linemen. Again, we're not in the pool of the top 5 D linemen in the country coming to Iowa State. They're going to Texas Tech. They're going to Alabama. They're going to Georgia. And they're $2 million guys. You know, we can pay a guy $750,000 or $1 million. We can have 2 or 3 guys for that $2 million. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, you're right. Having a little bit extra money is, you know, if they spend it wisely, of course. It's like free agency in the NFL. If you spend it wisely and you hit, it's going to be great. If you don't spend it wisely and these aren't the right guys, then, you know, the wins probably won't come as often as you'd like. And the only thing I've really noticed, I'm paying attention a little bit more than I ever have, but it looked like Iowa State, would you say their biggest strength in transfers is the O-line?
Yes. They've got a lot of them. And they're lower levels. It's like first team All-MAC from Akron. It's All-American from Montana. It's a former 4-star recruit out of Alabama or Auburn. And Auburn's O-line coach came to Iowa State, so that makes sense. A guy at Oklahoma that was hurt, that didn't get to play a lot, but did play, but just not a lot because he was hurt. So, yes, they are spending money on D-line and O-line. And then obviously you probably had to spend decent money on the quarterback, and that's just the reality of football. And then I would guess that safety out of Toledo was decent money. He was one of the top safeties behind the other Iowa State guys. But that's just, I mean, when this first went down, and I think you could hear it in my voice, and we've talked a little bit, I was worried about like 3-9 next year. I mean, I was. I do think we've gotten enough players now that we should be right around a bowl game. And maybe we should have had more confidence right away because this coaching staff had just did this at Washington State, this exact same thing. And I truly think that he pushed more guys out than I think we all want to even admit. I mean, I think I'm going to use Abu Selma as an example. My guess is he wanted to stay. He probably wanted, let's just say $500,000. I mean, I have no idea. That number could be way off. But let's say he wanted $500,000. And Jimmy Rogers said, well, we're only going to pay you $250,000. So truly, did Jimmy Rogers kick him out of the program? No. But by offering that $250,000, it was essentially saying, and then he went to Wisconsin and got $500,000 or maybe even a little bit more. That's what happened. Now the guys going to Penn State, I think most of those guys were going to Penn State no matter the number. But there are a few guys there that I think I'm surprised they're going to Penn State, but maybe they went there cheap because they want to be around Campbell. Or maybe he really does have that much money and he can still pay him just as much, if not more, than Iowa State, even to be a backup or a third stringer or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely probably has more money just given how big of a university Penn State is. And he probably wanted, 15 to 20 guys to come because he probably wants, 1 or 2 players in every position group or every room to kind of
show how it's done.
Show the program, the play styles, the philosophy, all that type of stuff. Same thing in the NFL. Most NFL teams would love to have one really good veteran in each room that can kind of keep track of everybody, keep an eye on everything, make sure the young guys are doing what they're supposed to. Penn State's going to have a bunch of new transfers coming in. So, yeah, I mean, Penn State, I don't know where they rank in NIL, but I would have to assume it's up there pretty high.
Yeah, you always see that third string quarterback, or he's a backup quarterback, and he starts in week 17 or 18 once a year, once every 3 years. You're like, he's still in the NFL? Well, it's because he does everything right. And essentially, he's a coach on the field. That's really what he is. He's a coach that can work with the quarterbacks and make sure, like just exactly what you said. A receiver is another one, or a safety. You get inside, and linemen, they just can't stick around. It's not worth your money to keep old linemen. But some of those that aren't as physical, just keep one guy that can play a little bit of special teams on defense, or safety a little bit, or especially quarterbacks. Just keep that one guy around that essentially a coach on the field, and all of a sudden you look up and he's got a 12-year NFL career with 12 starts. I mean, it's just those guys that just hang around. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, sort of the same philosophy. So, yeah, I mean, we've all seen a bunch of players transfer from Iowa State to Penn State, but, we see all the Washington State guys coming over. I mean, it's the same thing. You mentioned that staff had been through it. So it's I think you said it perfectly for Iowa State. It's a money ball game.
Now here's the next thing that needs to happen. So give it about another week. The portal's still open, but I think it's going to start slowing down because you needed to get your priority guys needed to come right away. But now players should be getting cheaper because there's less and less spots, and then obviously there's less and less money. Now everybody's budget is different, which that's a different argument, but everybody has less money today than they did on January 2nd. That's just reality. So it shouldn't be as just 24 hours a day. The next thing Iowa State needs to do is to get Jimmy Rogers and some of these players that are here in front of the media and in front of people to get to know them, because we don't know any of them. We've seen Jimmy Rogers 2 times, the press conference, and then when he's, beat the effing Hawks. Those are the 2 times we've seen him. He needs to get, I think he needs to get in front of Keith Murphy and get on an interview and be on WHO TV and on their podcast. And he needs to get with Chris Williams and do the same thing. Hour-long podcast or interview. Channel 13 is obviously not going to put an hour-long interview on TV, but they could put it on their internet site. And then obviously he could put it on their podcast. But some things like that. And then, if he wants to do a Des Moines Register interview, so he has a nice, article for them. And then same thing. I would do it out east. I know the other teams over there, but have a Cedar Rapids guy or a Quad City guy do it as well. And probably out west, a Council Bluffs and a Sioux City guy do it as well. You got to hit this whole state. With him being at South Dakota State for so long, you would think he would have some relationships in Sioux City. So that's the next step for Iowa State football, is to bring these players and coaches in front of people to get to know them, because we knew Matt Campbell, we knew Rocco Becht, we knew Ben Bramer, we knew Gabe Burkle. Most of these players are not from Iowa. Obviously Rocco Becht's not, but Bramer's from Nebraska. Burkle is from Cedar Rapids. These guys, Hanson was from just south of Minneapolis. These guys were close to home. A lot of these new guys are not from anywhere around here. So we got to get them. You got to get Iowa State fans fired back up.
Yeah, get on TV shows, podcasts, as you mentioned, whatever it takes. Get to know the coaches, get to know the players, and hopefully get a little bit more money coming in.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Is you have to. I think this right now, you have to worry about keeping the amount of money that you have. Obviously you always want more, but you don't want people to stop. I think there's a real chance, and I talked to Laura about this, is when we get that letter, we'll get the letter to renew our tickets, and I'll do it. And we get 7 tickets. We have a whole slew of them. And then I get a parking pass, and then we do 2 other parking passes and a camper. So, we spend enough money up there every year that it's not just a nice little check there that they get. But the interesting thing is going to be when I get to choose my seats. We get to choose our seats every year, and a lot of times I just leave them the same. But I want to see if I have more options this year than I've had. Essentially every season ticket is sold out for the last 5 years. And so it's been hard to move. We've moved down a little bit, but overall we have the same seats for, almost 10 years now. But it's going to be interesting to see if more seats are available.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. And that's, if you get better seats or if there's less fans in the stands, that's going to be a reflection on all the changes. Yep. And as you mentioned, the media that Rogers needs to do, and all the players, that's kind of the next step. Yep. Or one of the next steps.
Yeah, I think it is the next step. And then who was I? I was listening to Miller and Condon. I listen to way too many talk shows. I got to think about who it was and what day it was. Again, I have no idea what day of the week it is either. But he's like, the other thing they need to do that Campbell never did was open up the practices to the media. Same thing, just get to know people, all the TV stations, all the newspapers, and then have a spring game again, or, not necessarily a game, but have open practice, bring fans in. He goes, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 people to come watch, doesn't matter. Those are the ones you got to have. Hopefully it's a nice day. Usually it was always right around, first or second week of April. So it can be really nice. It could be really crappy out, but if it's a nice day, get 10,000 people, open up, let people grill and tailgate if it's nice out, and just walk in. And, Ben McCollum's doing a real good job of this at Carver. After the games, they go into the stands, they shake people's hand, and he's doing the same thing. He brought an entire new team. That's what he's trying to get everybody to know his players and know him, but that's Jimmy Rogers' job right now. Right, I mean, this very second is he got to get a team, but then as soon as that's over, he's got to focus on getting the crowd and the fans back on his side.
Nope,
not his fault, but they're not on his side right now.
Nope, I agree. You got to build the roster first. I mean, that goes before the media stuff, and then comes the media and the fans and everything that you spoke about.
Yeah, because I mean, right or wrong, next year we could not know him and we could know nothing about his players. But if he goes 10-2, nobody will care. But if he goes 2-10, we'll all care.
Yeah, it's all about the wins and losses, especially if you don't know the players or coaches that well.
Yep.
If you know them, it gives you a little bit of grace.
Yeah. So let's go to the NFL playoffs this week. No super surprise. I mean, really, the only super surprise was the Ravens missing the kick to go to the playoffs, and you feel horrible for the guy. Just absolute horrible. Rookie, correct?
Yep.
Hadn't missed from that distance. And then obviously, I mean, we're going to talk about it cost Harbaugh his job. Now, I really don't think that cost him his job. Everything I read, and I'm sure you read the same thing, is the GM/organization wanted him to fire his offensive coordinator, and he said no, so they fired him.
Well, it was a little bit more than that. They've had more heartbreaking losses and more blown leads than any team during Harbaugh's era. And even, he's been coaching a long time, so that makes sense.
Right.
But even over like the last 5 or 10 years, when you could compare it to other coaches that have coached in the same time frame. So from everything I heard, the meetings went really long. And what I would guess is they didn't plan on firing him. But when you're in a meeting for 2, 3, 4 hours and you're talking about all the good and all the bad and you have disagreements, you might come to a point where you just decide it's time for a change. It's sort of like the Andy Reid thing in Philadelphia, a little bit different, of course, but you spend a lot of time somewhere, you have some success, and then it just kind of runs its course. That's what it feels like here, and he's going to be the number one candidate, as he should be, for all the openings and all the openings that are not open right now, which I think there are more than just one. I think there are about 4 or 5.
Well, that's what I heard for sure. 7 teams have already contacted him. So that means there's at least one team that hasn't fired their coach, and I would assume that's Miami. But there's probably 5 other teams that will fire their coach tomorrow if they knew they could get Harbaugh.
It depends what happens this weekend. Now we're going to get into the weekend games, but three teams stick out to me in the NFL playoffs if they lose. We'll start with Philadelphia. If they lose, if they get embarrassed by San Francisco, Philly's shown they will move off coaches very quickly, that they don't mind doing that. I would also keep an eye on Buffalo if they lose at Jacksonville. This is supposed to sort of be their year.
Right.
And then one that might surprise people, but it'd be the Green Bay Packers. And Matt LaFleur and Gutekunst have not been given contract extensions, so they're going into next season, as of right now, on a lame duck year. That typically doesn't happen in the NFL, especially with good organizations. So I think there's more than 7. I bet there's 10 or 11 teams that have contacted Harbaugh, and he, his agent, and probably his family have told him, why don't we wait till after this weekend to see what happens, because there might be some more openings.
Just teams that are open right now, which one would make the most sense? Now, obviously, I think
only 2.
Okay.
It's the New York Giants, because it looks like they have a potentially a franchise quarterback. Geographically, he's lived out there. He knows the area. And they have a lot of talent, in my opinion. And then the other one, of course, is the Raiders, if he likes Mendoza, because they have the number 1 pick. The Falcons I would put in 3rd place. And then the other openings, of course, the Falcons don't count because he's not going back. Or, the Ravens don't count because they're not going back there. Yep. To me, the Browns, the Cardinals, and the Titans, no chance. Don't go to those places.
Does the Titans intrigue anybody? Is Cam Ward maybe the guy? I mean, obviously we don't know yet, but is there a chance Cam Ward is the guy?
Maybe, but they've got terrible ownership, front office. I mean, that Titans are kind of the laughingstock, one of the laughingstocks of the league right now. The team like the Jets, I know they don't have an opening, but Jets, Browns, and now Titans, those teams get the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best options most years. And I think that's where the Titans fall into place right now. Cam Ward could be really good, but if I was Harbaugh, I wouldn't go there. I'd go Giants or Raiders, or I'd wait till after this weekend to see what happens, and maybe one of the good teams with good quarterbacks opens up, or even take a year off, go work with his brother for a year, and then see
or just work in TV for a year and figure it out. And there'll be teams that will fire their guy again next year if they think they can get you, or if they can get you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. There's a few coaches that are, I don't want to say the hot seat, but this week in the playoffs, but there's a few coaches that their seat's a little bit warm, maybe warmer than people realize.
I think the Packers is one. I heard that for a while, like not just the last 2 weeks, but it's just maybe time for a change.
Well, it was a story that came out before the season. Like I said, I didn't realize it at the time, but I didn't realize LaFleur and Gutekunst were, this was the last year before they go into a lame duck year. And now they've had some injuries. Maybe, front office will understand that. But if they get embarrassed by Chicago, I mean, you could see a change coming.
Is there any coaches that are in their position right now that will leave for any of those other jobs? Like, I just don't see how that, but would Andy Reid leave to go somewhere else if he knows Kelsey's retiring, Mahomes isn't going to play it all next year, he wants one more chance?
I don't think so. I really don't. Andy Reid's too old, and a lot of people are saying the Ravens are the most attractive job. I agree that they are. It's most people consider them not just top 5, but arguably maybe the best run franchise in the NFL. Now, they haven't won the most Super Bowls or anything like that, but from ownership, scouting department, GM, all the way down, there's a lot of people that consider them to be close to one. The problem is, though, Lamar misses a lot of games. Him and Joe Burrow have missed the same amount of games the last 5 years.
Oh.
And he's 29 now. He's a running quarterback. So the Ravens' job is very attractive. I don't disagree with that. But how many more really good years does Lamar have? 3 to 4?
Yeah.
I mean,
how about this? What about the Steelers if they get beat? Which, I mean, would Tomlin retire / they move on from Tomlin? I mean,
potentially. I think
4 weeks ago they wanted him gone.
I think it depends on the fashion of the game. I mean, if they lose on a field goal or something, he probably comes back. If they get beat by double digits, potentially. I mean, maybe a team makes a trade for him or something of that nature.
Swap him and Harbaugh just swap jobs.
Could, yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd obviously be a little bit weird, but
right. And that's the Steelers don't hire Harbaugh. He's too old because they want to keep their coach for 20 years.
Yeah. And I think Harbaugh is only like 5 or 6 years. He's not much younger than Andy Reid.
Right. Yeah, he's older than you think. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you think he is older than Jim, and Jim was a number 1 pick in, first round pick, not number 1, but first round pick, I think in 87 for the Bears. So, I mean, he would have been born, well, let's just say, he'd have been born in the early 60s, probably, early mid 60s at the latest.
Yeah, he's older than people realize. So, yeah, the coaching candidates were super strong to begin with, but now they're a little bit better. You got Harbaugh, you got Kevin Stefanski, then you got guys like Jesse Minter, Kubiak, of course, Cignetti and Marcus Freeman of the college ranks are being mentioned.
So, if you're Cignetti, and let's say you go win it, I think there is a difference if you win it and if you don't win it. If you win it, is he arrogant enough to think he can do it and go to the NFL? I think he is. Now, I don't know if he will this year, but I think it's just a matter of time before he does go to the NFL. Yeah,
and he's a little bit older too. So I would think if they win it, I think the only job he would consider would be the Raiders if he believes that Mendoza can be a franchise quarterback. He could go work with Tom Brady. Mendoza could learn from Brady, of course. They're at the Raiders. I know the Raiders are a mess typically, but I think that would probably be the only position he would leave for this offseason. I don't think he'd go to the Ravens with Lamar.
It's a different quarterback. But I see him going. Now, here's the other thing. Is there any chance a Ryan Day goes? He won his national championship. A little bit of sour taste in your mouth this year. But, just to get out before it gets out. Now, I do think he's going to have a top 5 team every year, but that's not good enough at Ohio State.
Yeah, I know he finally beat Michigan, then losing the playoffs. So now it's a wash, basically. So
right, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if Ryan, these NFL teams are a little bit leery of hiring college coaches, which I understand. That there's a different game, especially if you're not experienced. I mean, I don't think he would get any of the top jobs, so he'd have to leave for like the Browns, the Titans, and the Cardinals, and you're destined to probably fail at those places.
I do think now. It didn't necessarily go. I do think he was in the NFL with Chip Kelly. Now, that wasn't very long, but I do think he was with Chip Kelly in the NFL for a couple of years. Now, I don't know I don't think he was like the coordinator or anything, but I think he was quarterback's coach or, receivers coach, something. I do. So I think he was in the NFL. Now, obviously, he's been a college guy most of his career. Cignetti, I don't think has ever been in the NFL. Marcus Freeman, I don't know. I still think he's in play. I know he said he's coming back, but if the right team, the Ravens opening changes everything. I mean, I do think that. And if the Steelers, I mean, I could see the Steelers going hard after Marcus Freeman if they move on from Tomlin.
Oh,
because he fits right into what the Steelers want. Guy that can be there for 20 years, young guy, energetic. I mean, he's Mike Tomlin Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the Ravens real quick, jobs like that don't open very often. I mean, this is definitely the best opening since the Packers had Rodgers and LaFleur went there. I mean, typically the openings are bad teams for a reason.
Yeah. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's not very often where you get a team with a Hall of Fame level quarterback in their prime or toward the end of their prime, which the Packers were and the Ravens are currently. So, and well-run organizations, very respected. So, yeah, these jobs don't come open very often. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there that are, maybe in current positions that are maybe even thinking about going there if they could.
Yeah, I mean, just some kind of mediocre teams. Yeah, coaches. I mean, you think of like if a Ben Johnson, let's say he finished, well, let's just say a Dan Campbell-ish type person, just missed the playoffs. Maybe the window is closed in Detroit and he sees it. If he could get the Baltimore job, does he give one more run at getting there? Coaches like that. I'm not saying Dan Campbell, but a coach, just missed the playoffs. Maybe they don't think they got it anymore in their current job. Now Raheem Morris is coming back. He just said it, but somebody like that as well. Just missed the playoffs. Mayfield's too hurt. He's done. Don't know who. We're not going to be able to do it anymore. Maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, anybody and everybody is looking at the Ravens job 100%. I mean, you name a candidate outside like an Andy Reid or a McVay or Shanahan or something. But besides those top 4 or 5 guys, I'm sure everybody's kind of thinking about it in the back of their mind.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the games this week. We're already over an hour. We've talked, but we've not had a ton of time talking here the last few weeks, and there's just a lot going on in sports right now, which is great.
Yep.
Let's just go. Let's go to the 3 NFC games first. You got the Rams and Eagles. You got the Bears and Packers. Nope, sorry. The Rams and Panthers, Bears and Packers, and then 49ers and Eagles. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, one thing real quick. Are you okay with making picks on here? Because I wanted to also do a shout out to Chris if he listens. Yeah. I know sometimes he does. Thanks for him taking the lead or whoever did and keeping the Whitford pool alive and going. So
the Whitford Memorial, at the Elks, we do a pool every year, and Dave Whitford had done it forever. And unfortunately, Dave passed this fall, and I think we talked about that here on the podcast. And but yeah, Chris did a great job of making, kind of Brett, you, me, and Chris kind of got together, and I know I think Brett had a picture of the old one that we kind of copied the rules, and then Chris took it and ran with it, and made and updated. This was not Dave's forte; it was computers and stuff. But now it's on a computer, and he's got, I don't know if I actually had him send me the spreadsheet. It's awesome, and we've got it so the names are on there, and you can click what team they picked, and then it automatically it's pretty good. Him and I've got it kind of worked out where we're going to get all the names in, and he clicks who wins the game, and then automatically populates the points and the wins and stuff. So it's pretty good. But yeah, Chris Cassins, great job. My former neighbor. So yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, no, definitely. Big thanks for that. And this is the perfect year for this Whitford pool to go on because the playoffs are wide open. I know we talked about that, the Elks and at your house. This is a year, besides about two teams, two or three. I mean, I could see anybody getting the Super Bowl and potentially winning it. And no, I'm glad that's going on. And also, I just want to say to Chris too, my picks that I make tonight are not my official picks. I think I'm sending my official ones in tomorrow or Friday morning.
Yeah, so that's what I've already sent him my picks. I do not. I made my picks here tonight as well. I'm not 100% sure they're the same, so I might have changed my mind. We'll see. And then obviously, I always reserve the right to change for Chris the Whitford pool as well up until Saturday.
Yep. No, the same here. Let's But when you said what game do you want to start with, let's just start with we'll go to the NFC bracket first.
Okay.
Let's start with the first NFC game, which is Rams Panthers on Saturday at 3:30 Central Time. Obviously, I mean, I think 99% of people. This will be one though. If you take Carolina, you'll probably gain some on the field. But I'm taking the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams too, and so and I know you got in. I'm doing that pool as well, just like we did for college football and stuff. And if you look at that, it was looking at the points, and you get 5 points if you pick the Rams and they win, and you get 15 points if you pick the Panthers and they win. So it's the same thing. I really thought, and obviously we can still change it. I picked the Rams, but I'm really half tempted to pick the Panthers just because of the risk reward. But it's almost like it's a guaranteed free 5 points for everybody else if I am wrong.
Yeah, and I like how you did that with the different point structure on that separate pool there. But I mean, Carolina did beat the Rams not too long ago, of course, in Carolina. But we've all seen the stats with first-time playoff quarterbacks. They usually struggle, and I just have too much trust in McVay and Stafford to falter in this situation. I think the Rams get it done. Now, if you're talking spread,
right,
I'd probably lean toward the Panthers, but I think the Rams win, by 4 or 7, give or take.
Yeah, I'm with you on the spread's that's a different animal. These are just money line picks. Who's going to win the football game? So we're both with the Rams there. No surprise. Saturday night, NFC Norris division is Chris Berman. Hey, speaking of Chris Berman, did you see him make the call with Laura Rutledge running across the field in the Sugar Bowl from doing her sideline gig to her TV studio gig?
No, I saw something about it, but I was somewhere I didn't have the audio. It was on my Instagram. I got to go back and watch it.
It was pretty good. I mean, it's the old, it's Berman of old, and he's just talking about her doing it, and it was pretty good. So no, but Saturday night, I think it's 7:00, whatever it is.
Yep.
Bears Packers, oldest rivalry in sports or in NFL, just about. It should be a great game. Packers hurt, banged up. Bears have had horrible luck / they just can't beat the Packers in the last 20 years. But they did split this year. Again, spread different than money line. I'm going to pick the Bears, and this is just simply with my heart. I think this is going to be high stress here in the Morgan household watching this game.
It's going to be high stress for all Bears fans, and myself included, because I got a futures bet on the Bears. So I'm hoping that they win, of course. Both of these teams are kind of coming in with ugly, not a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. So it's one of those type of deals. Green Bay has always been the 7 seed with LaFleur and with Jordan Love. That's another kind of thing that's kind of working against LaFleur. But this is going to be one of the few times where I pick a first-time playoff quarterback to win in the playoffs. I'm going with the Bears as well.
No surprise there. I mean, I know you're more of a Favre fan than a Packers fan, but you definitely lean the Packers a little bit. yeah, we need to just go to the fourth quarter. Williams doesn't play well until the fourth quarter, so hopefully we're where we have the lead or really close.
Yeah, I like the momentum slightly. I mean, this is like a
Right.
51, 49%,
Yeah.
pick. I like the momentum of Chicago slightly better. They have the better O-line, better run game. Now Green Bay does. Now since Micah Parsons got hurt, their defense has not been the same, and of course Jordan Love's been banged up. There could be a bunch of wind, of course, which is typical for this time of year in Chicago or Green Bay for that matter. So I'm gonna just kind of trust Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to squeak this one out somehow.
Okay. All right. So we're 2 for 2 on picking the same. So now we go to Sunday. 49ers at the Eagles. So kind of 49ers are banged up. Eagles offense is awful. I mean, that's really what this game is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Well, so this is another tough one to pick. Wild card weekend always is. Jalen Hurts is awesome at home though in the playoffs. Brock Purdy is like a 4-point underdog or more on the road. Does not have a good record. And I think most of the San Francisco 49ers are going to play, but how healthy are they? I'm just, me, I'd love to pick against Philadelphia because I don't like Nick Sirianni at all. But I am going to stick with Philly here. I've seen a lot of people picking San Francisco, but I'm going the Eagles. Even though they've had their offense is, I mean, they could play terrible for 3 quarters, and then they have one good quarter and, they get to 17 points somehow. But their defense is really playing well, the Eagles is. And Lane Johnson, I think, is going to be back playing. So I think that's going to be enough to get it done at home, even though I'd like to pick the Niners.
And I am going to go with the Niners. I just think Kyle Shanahan's going to outcoach Sirianni, which that's not hard to do.
Won't hurt my feelings.
When the Eagles won the Super Bowl the first time with Sirianni, and obviously they've won it a couple times, but that was because Purdy got hurt. I do think if Purdy doesn't get hurt, that game might have ended differently. But that really has nothing to do with today and Sunday's game. But I just believe Kyle Shanahan's going to have something planned, and I think the offense. Obviously, they were playing hard, but I do think maybe this last week against Seattle, they were just a little bit cautious because they knew. I mean, obviously they wanted to get the 1 seed, but it wasn't the end of the world, and they needed to get a little healthier. And hopefully, they're as healthy as they're going to be, and cross country trip won't kill them. Hopefully, Kittle and Purdy can get it done.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I don't know. McCaffrey's looked like he's just kind of getting worn down. They've used him a ton this season. That worries me a little bit in this game. But I won't be surprised either way. This was a tough one for me. I really wanted to pick San Francisco, but I am going to go with the Eagles here, even though their team has just been goofy all year. It feels like.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously now this is we can get a Purdy Iowa State jersey because he's a Cyclone forever. So that's one we can take to the bank. We can get a Purdy jersey. We can get, and obviously if you just get 15, then you get Seneca as well. He's our guy. Trust him to make a play late, getting it to Kittle. That's what it's going to come down. It's going to be I've already got all the gray hair in the world, but it's going to get a little grayer this weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Shanahan and Saleh, they've done a hell of a job for San Francisco this year, given all the injuries that they've had. I mean, I think it's one of the 49ers' most impressive seasons that they've had, given all the injuries. So I am rooting for the 49ers. I'm going with the home team. Eagles, tough place to play. Their record with Sirianni and Hurts at home is really well. Especially in playoff games too. So that's my theory on that one, I guess.
Yeah, I can't go again. I mean, I understand it 100%. It's one of those you almost should pick all the home teams if you just really are just playing the odds, and then you're probably going to get 5 of the 6,
Right.
maybe 4 of the 6 this year, because I think the Rams being on the road, that kind of nullifies 1, so maybe 4 out of 6 this year. But all right, let's move off to the AFC, which these games are really good too.
Mm-hmm.
You've got I want to go with this one first. I want to talk the Jags and the Bills, because I think this one is the most intriguing game all weekend.
It's the first one too.
Yeah, this is the Bills' chance. I don't care what anybody says, and I know you've talked about it. This is the Bills' chance, but I don't know if they have it. I'm going to pick the Jags in this one. Now, this is the one I think I might have picked the Bills in Whitverse, but I'm waffling. I'm flip-flopping in this one. The Jags have looked really good this last 6 weeks. Really good. They put a lot of points up on the board. Trevor Lawrence is looking like a number 1 pick. And Josh Allen is banged up. The Bills haven't looked good. They haven't taken advantage of the opportunities that have been given to them. But I think Josh Allen's the best quarterback that's left. And so when you have the best quarterback, you got a chance.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I do believe the Jags should be favored. I'm going with the Jags too. I like I said earlier when we were talking about Indiana, I think it's the same thing. I think we're looking at the logo on the side of the helmet, Indiana, Jacksonville Jaguars. People just write them off. I'm guilty of it too. But now the Jags schedule has been a little bit easier. I mean, they have beaten up on some bad teams, but they did go to Denver and win, which that really did impress me. Trevor Lawrence, the last 6-7 weeks, is playing at MVP level. As you mentioned, Josh Allen's banged up. These are 2 of the 4 teams I have in the playoffs for Super Bowl futures. So obviously, I wish they weren't playing each other in the first round, but I guess I'm guaranteed that one move on. So yeah. There is that. My heart's with Buffalo, and I would love to see Josh Allen win this. And, people have mentioned this all over the different networks. Buffalo's no number 6 seed has ever had more pressure on them than the Buffalo Bills this year, given that the Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is his opportunity. I said that right out of the gates. This is his opportunity, and they need to take advantage. And I'm not 100% again. If they would lose this game, especially if they would get blown out, that McDermott might be done.
Yeah, and there's a hardball landing spot, or maybe Bill Belichick's got 5 years left in him and could go play New England twice a year. A little revenge. Because the offense, Buffalo's offense for the most part is set to go. Obviously, when you have a Josh Allen, they just need maybe a little culture change and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to that game. I hope it's good. Jacksonville, are they for real? Yeah, it's tough to say because of the Jags, right? But like I said, I compare it to Indiana football. Like, they've been pretty damn good this year, and their quarterback's playing at a really high level. Looks like they might have the real coach. So I am going to take the Jags as a home underdog.
Yeah, I picked them in ours here, but that's the one I might have picked. I think I did pick the Bills in the other one. All right, let's move on let's go to the 4-5 here. Let's go to Houston at Pittsburgh. Houston's got the best defense in the league against Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers just continue to make the playoffs under Tomlin and have a winning record under Tomlin. It's just what they do. I just think I think the Texans are playing well, and the Texans may have a chance to go farther than just one win. So I'm going to go with the Texans.
Okay. I'm going with Pittsburgh money line and Pittsburgh plus the 3.5. Mike Tomlin, I believe, is 12-0 on Monday night at home.
Yes.
Steelers coach. Now, that's none of them in the playoffs.
The Steelers have not lost a Monday Night Football game since like 1992.
So that's part of the reason. But another part of the reason, and I'm not talking winning the game, I'm just talking spread if you're a bettor. Teams that are on a 9-game winning streak going into the playoffs, which the Texans are, I forget what the year is, but in the last 25 times, are 6-19 versus the spread, and the Texans have a 9-game winning streak. So
I wouldn't have known that they had 9. I know they've won a lot, but I wouldn't have said 9 in a row. Wow. Well, it's all those Cyclones on the team.
There you go. Houston at home with C.J. Stroud in the playoffs have been pretty good. On the road, it's a little bit different story. And Pittsburgh is just I don't know. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to give Mike Tomlin his first playoff win in a long time. And then, who knows what happens after that in the following for the playoffs. But I agree. Houston is the better team, no doubt about it. But Pittsburgh's offense has been getting better. Mike Tomlin, the Steelers at home. It's a Monday night standalone game. You got a warm weather team going up to a cold environment. I'm going to take Pittsburgh.
I mean, that's not shocking. I'm kind of going against the grain here and picking several road teams. Little Iowa State Texans, and I'm going to go with them. And then I'll let you pick first in the Chargers at the Patriots.
Another tough game. I'll give you the short answer. I'm going Chargers. The Patriots have basically played nobody all year. The Chargers have played a tough schedule. It's easy to say that Drake May is the MVP. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I think Stafford's clearly the MVP. More touchdowns, more passing yards, tougher division, all that type of stuff. But set that aside. The Patriots have played the easiest schedule in the league. The Chargers have overcome a lot this year. All their offensive line injuries. And it's the second year of Harbaugh and Herbert, who you and I both like. And I'm going to, again, it's Drake May's first time in the playoffs. And I forget what the exact record is. I know I picked Caleb, but I'm going to go against conventional wisdom here, maybe, since New England's favored. But I'm going to take the Chargers on the road.
I'm going to go with the Patriots, but I'm leery. This is Drake May scares me, and just now here's the one thing that Vrabel's been there, done this. More than like Ben Johnson and the Bears. So that is the one thing that makes me a little bit more. Yes. Yeah. So they've done this before. As a head coach, as an assistant coach, won Super Bowls, players, Vrabel obviously won some as a player as well. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots. I do think there is something to the culture there in Patriots. They know how to win, and I think it will. And then the Chargers just, unfortunately, in the playoffs in the last, and it's not under Harbaugh, but we all remember Herbert having a big lead and blowing it.
Yeah, and you and I like him as as much as anybody does, and it's a big game for Herbert too. I mean, I would say the quarterbacks under the most pressure this playoffs is Josh Allen 1, and you could argue Herbert 2, even though he's a 7 seed and his offensive line it's ranked the worst by PFF because they've had all the injuries. New England's pass rush is not very good though, which maybe that evens itself out, call it, and I kind of trust teams that have been battle tested maybe a little bit more. So maybe that's why I'm fading New England here as a number 2 seed. But I think I've got 2 road teams, 1 and 4 home teams. I think you're 3-3, are you? Oh, wait.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 3-3. Yep.
Okay,
probably not good.
We got some disagreement, which is good, though.
Yeah, we've got 3 that we like and 3 that we're different than. I got them wrote down here. So, and we both like Miami and Indiana, though, right?
Yeah, I'm probably tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a little 2-team parlay, Indiana money line and Miami money line to win the games, and I think that pays out. I forget what it was, but I'll check tomorrow. But I'm probably going to throw a little bet on that just so I have some rooting interest in those 2 games, of course.
Yeah. So, enjoy these next 5 days. Football is the number of games are getting less and less in a hurry. So we've got, I think the Super Bowl's in a month and a week, maybe. I can't remember.
February 8th. I'm flying to Charlotte that morning. So
okay, so 1 month. I mean, we've got 1 month
Yep.
of football left from tomorrow. 3 more college football games, and obviously the entire NFL playoffs. But it goes fast. Enjoy it, because when February 15th rolls around, when we have our podcast, we're going to be like, well, now we don't have football to talk about as much. We will still talk about it until August. But yeah, so again, thanks for joining us. We went long, 1 hour 25 tonight, Trev, but that's okay. This is definitely crossover where we've got basketball to talk about. We've got college football really to talk about, and the NFL. It's not one of those where, hey, we can get just 10 minutes of basketball or 5 minutes of football this time or whatever it might be. It deserved our attention, all 3 facets.
Nope. It was great to get back on here. It's been a little bit while. Good to get back in a regular schedule. And yeah, it seems like a few weeks ago it was August and we were doing our football preview, and now we're previewing the end of the season. So after the season ends, there's still plenty to look forward to. We got NFL Combine, March Madness, free agency, the draft, the Masters, WNBA season starting, which some people like, some people don't. But it's not as bad as some people make it out to be when football ends.
No, and with Caitlin Clark hopefully being healthy, the WNBA will last longer for us. You're definitely more of a WNBA fan than I am, but she's playing. There's way more interest and way more to talk about than when she's not.
100%. But we'll see if she's healthy and ready to go when that time comes, of course. But yeah, like you said, for now we got to enjoy the football that's left, and see how our picks go and our predictions, and Whitford's pool that's going on. And these NFL playoffs should be fun, because I could just about change my mind on all the games except maybe one.
Yeah, I know I could. Yeah, and then that'll be the one that we all lose. We'll all kick ourselves because we all said, yeah.
It'll be the Panthers. It'll be like 1 or 2 people in Whitford's pool to pick the Panthers, and that'll be the game changer right there.
Yep. So, absolutely. All right. It's almost 11 o'clock here, which is absolutely fine. No big deal. Where are you at tonight, Trev, now that we can't see you? Are you at home or are you on the road?
I'm at home, and then I'm at home next week too.
Okay.
Just kind of getting my schedule planned for the year. And then the following week, it's basically full travel most of the time.
All righty. Okay. All right. Thanks, Trev. We'll talk to you next week, and everybody enjoy this next 5 days of football, and we'll be back right next week, most likely on Wednesday, but we'll let you know if it's different than that. Talk to you later, Trev.
Have a good one.